If your website does not generate sales, leads, subscriptions, or revenue at the rate you think it should, be fair to say you have a problem. Now, our guest says that this problem is an issue that is related to aligning with your user's intent. In fact, he's written a book about it, which we'll get to in a bit. But quite simply put, he says, it's not about you. It's about your visitors. Address their issues and you will solve your own problems. In fact, this is the key principle in conversion rate optimization. It doesn't matter if you are optimizing landing pages, A/B tests, or redesigning your website. Aligning user intent with your website experience is the only way to increase your conversion rate. So how do you align the user intent? That's what I'm hoping to put to our guest in just a moment. Hello and welcome to the Predictable B2B Success Podcast, brought to you by Sproutwith.com. I'm Vinay, coach, and our guest today is Martin. Right? Did I say that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Excellent. And Martin, you're an entrepreneur, software executive, team leader. You bring more than 25 years of sales and marketing experience to your role at Site Tuners, where you're responsible for driving revenue growth and establishing and nurturing partner relationships. You've written a book more recently called, sorry, I'm trying to find it here, True Connections, Relationship Marketing in the Digital World. I'd love to dive into that in a moment, just to give the listeners a bit of an idea of your past history. You joined Site Tuners back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And previous to that, you had a stint as president of Privacy Partners, a company you founded in 2003. But over the course of your career, you've held executive level sales and marketing roles at companies the likes of Context News Network, Microsystems Technology, CompuServe, and Covenant Software as just a few examples. You currently serve on the board of directors for DocuVantage Corporation and as a former board member of both the Association for Information and Image Management and Object World Corporation. Martin, I'm curious, what was it that got you thinking about joining Site Tuners?
So I was retired, and a good friend of mine, Tim Ash, who was the founder of the company, called me up one day and he said, I need someone to run sales and marketing. So I started naming off people to him. And it's, no, dummy, I meant you. And I went, yeah, no, I'm retired. He said, no, I need you to come and take the company to the next level. And I thought, I'm still young. Why not? And then he said, you know what? You could come here. You could be the adult in charge. And I thought he was kidding. He wasn't. I had to be the adult in charge. And when a number of years went by and he decided he wanted to do other things, the founders wanted to do other things, they sold it to me in 2019. And it was a good decision all around.
Now, if I remember back in the day, Tim was very much focused on conversion rate optimization.
Absolutely.
And Site Tuners, I guess, is still addressing that issue. Has it shifted somewhat, though, since its early days?
It has, right? But if we go back to before it became a conversion rate optimization agency, it was a super affiliate. Tim and Robin were raking in millions of dollars with affiliate marketing. And all of these affiliate companies would say to them, how come your traffic converts better than our other affiliates? And the next thing we know, they started hiring Site Tuners to help them with their own websites, and conversion rate optimization vis-a-vis Site Tuners was born. And Tim has always been a man who was very big tent, always helped people, created the conversion conference, wrote books on the subject, spoke around the world, literally around the world. As a matter of fact, I just talked to him the other day. He came back from Brazil where he spoke in front of 10,000 people about neural marketing. And he's still doing that. When I joined, we changed our business model. We went from doing projects to doing retainer-based work because conversion rate optimization is not a one and done. It's like playing whack-a-mole. If you're familiar with that in Australia, you are. Okay, good. You hit one thing and up sudden pops something else that you got to fix. And so we've done that. And then after Tim and Robin had retired and I took it over, the first thing I did is I shut down all our offices. I lowered our prices because we didn't have people in offices, and we wound up with people dispersing everywhere. So it's bizarre. So yeah, so we had 3 offices, and those people from those offices now are in everywhere from multiple states throughout the United States to Mexico, Japan, Portugal, Spain. Where else might they be? Colombia. We're literally all over the place now because we can be.
Yep.
So
I'm curious though, conversion rate optimization sounds like a great idea, but when you suggest to someone that their website is really all about them and not their clients, it can be a little bit of a upsetting moment, if I can put it that way, in that it
oh,
might be difficult for people to digest. Talk to us, if you would, a little bit about this idea and how we need to shift our thinking in order to become
right.
open to how our customers view us and our digital content.
Sure. So actually, before we go much further, let me just share a thought.
Sure.
Okay. Vinay, I'm actually a very selfish person. I'm self-centered. I think about myself first and foremost. And that's because I'm an animal. And interesting enough, you're an animal. We're all animals. We're hardwired to be as animals, to be selfish. It's our survival instincts. And just because we're not out hunting necessarily to survive anymore or fighting off a tribe to survive, we're still animals. So we're hardwired to put ourselves first. And so that's that instinct, that animal instinct that we have is prevalent in the people that own the websites and the people that visit the websites. So if, as a website owner, you say, you know what, I know what I want, but if I give my visitors what they want, they will give me money. They will become my leads, my sales, my subscriptions, whatever I need them to be. So by focusing on the visitor and understanding they're selfish animals, just like we all are,
Mm.
by focusing on the visitor, you make money. It's that simple.
Mm. But
And that's great optimization in a nutshell. Not now.
but certainly makes sense. Obviously, putting ourselves in the shoes of the customer can be a challenge for most of us. I'd love to dive into that in a moment, but I'm curious as well, from a personal point of view, what would you say would be your personal area of strength?
My part. So I have to go back a little bit of a story to,
Please
to,
do.
to do that. So years ago, I read a book by Dr. Beverly DeAngelis, What Women Want Men to Know. And it's back in my bookshelf there. It's pretty thick. And I remember reading this book and I got to maybe 70 pages into the book and I thought, oh my God, women can't possibly be that dysfunctional. And so I asked the women at work, do you do this and this? They were like, yeah. I went, oh my God. And then I read a little more further and I went, oh my God, men can't possibly be this dysfunctional. We are. Okay. We're all dysfunctional. And when I realized how dysfunctional we all are and how we communicate differently, that book changed my life.
Yeah.
That book is the basis for how I treat everybody, male and female. It is the basis for a lot of the marketing we do. It is the basis for how, as odd as this sound, I became not only a better marketer and a better boss and a better employee, but I became a better father. I became a better spouse, all right? Because I started focusing and communicating the way other people needed me to. And once you do that, the world opens up. And that's the basis of everything that I've accomplished. I'll add one other book to it that I strongly recommend, which is an oldie but goodie, which is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Seriously, people haven't changed because we're animals. I'm going to go back to that. And Dale Carnegie recognized that. And it's all about focusing on the other person. Anyway, that's my backstory. And once I figured all of that out, that's helped me be successful in lots of
Yeah.
ways.
I think you've alluded to it, but I'll ask you this anyway. So, in that area of strength, what is something that businesses don't know but should?
What is something that I'm going to say something that's almost the same as what I said before, but I'm going to twist it in a way. All right. Here's what I'm going to say. And for every website owner out there, sit down. All right. Before I say this, sit down. Okay. So here's the deal. Your website visitors don't care about you. They don't care about what you're proud of. They don't care about your backstory. They don't care about any of this. But what do websites do? Websites all say, we did this and we're proud of this. And we jokingly call that the opera school of marketing. It's like, me, it's all about me. I don't care about you. They don't care about you either. That goes back to the focus. But website owners always think, we have to tell them this. No, you don't. You have to tell them what they're looking for so they can make a rational decision, not the stuff you're necessarily proud of, the stuff they need to move forward. And that's our biggest challenge with all of our clients. But we want to tell them about this. Yeah, that's nice.
This idea of putting ourselves in the shoes of our customers takes a bit of effort. How would you recommend we begin to do that?
Oh, that's simple. And it has nothing to do with marketing, and it has nothing to do with your website or your visitors. So there's an exercise that everybody can perform, and it's very hard to do. Tomorrow, or whenever you're listening to this, go to a cafe, go out to a restaurant, and talk to somebody there, even if it's the waiter or waitress, or if it's the barista or somebody sitting at a table next to you. And when you talk to them, try not to use the word I. It is so hard to have a conversation without using the word I. And when you do that, the conversation becomes about the other person. And this takes practice. But if you could start to have conversations without saying I this and I that and that. So if somebody says to you, and they'll say, use the word I'm this and this. Okay. Instead of saying, oh, I know somebody who does that, or, oh, I've always thought that was interesting. Instead of saying that, and say, wow, that's interesting. Tell me a little bit more, please. How did you get into it? Make it about them. If you do that in normal conversations, as bizarre as this sounds, it will start to happen on your website. And we do that with our own employees. And I will tell you, we have employees who have different native languages. And one of my employees has got Spanish as a native language. Said, you think this is hard in English? This is even harder in Spanish. And I'm like, okay, I don't know, but okay. And so, yeah, it works.
That's interesting. So if I can put this another way, are you suggesting that we consciously develop empathy and invest in this idea of developing empathy on a regular basis?
Oh, absolutely. I don't get into an Uber without talking to the Uber driver. I don't get into a taxi without talking to the taxi driver. As a matter of fact, I was recently in Australia and I was so disappointed. Years ago, when I went to Australia, you would get in the front seat of the taxi, all right, or the front seat of whatever the car was, because, all right, because that was considered polite and you would talk to people. After COVID, now people are like backing away from it. So they want me in the back seat, but I still talk to them. So talk to everybody. Here's the other thing. I don't know what I don't know. And as far as I know, we only pass this way once in life. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea. But while I'm here, if I can make a difference in somebody's life, even if it's just a simple gesture of valuing them and talking to them, honestly, what goes around comes around. I believe in that strongly. Again, if you develop these skills, that becomes natural for you. It goes into every part of your life.
I can understand this idea of creating empathy. However, for most businesses, there tends to be, at least most business people, there tends to be some sort of purpose that they have, perhaps when they create a company or decide to go about trying to address as they went about business. At what point can we, and should we, align our business purpose with the empathy that we're developing? Is there a correlation between the two that we should be aware of?
So To be successful with conversion rate optimization and your websites, and I think even business success, you have to align three things. You have to align the user intent with their experience and your company goals. And if that was a Venn diagram with three circles in the middle, would be where the money is. Let me give an example. What if you were driving website visitors to your website and you offered them a free iPad with every visit? You could get lots and lots of people coming to your website, but you know what? You're not going to meet your company goals. So you really want to make sure that the visitors that you're aligning with are actually visitors that you can help. So if your product or service can help somebody, and by servicing them, that aligns with your goals. Those are the people that you want to attract. Those are the people you want to have a great experience with. And then those are the experiences that turn into revenue for you because it's aligning with your goals. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be self-centered and only talk to those people. For example, the other day, we got somebody who just graduated from college and he started up a website, and I gave him a half hour of my time. And I told him all the things that I saw on his website that he could change. And instead of half hour, we spent an hour and 15 minutes. This guy was brilliant. He's about 24, 25 years old. And when we were talking, at the end of talking to him, I said, so you're an entrepreneur. Do you really want to be an entrepreneur, or can I hire you? All right. Because he was that smart and that engaging. And I thought, oh my God, I want to have this person on my team. Unfortunately, he owns a couple of companies. He's not into that. So I basically said, so for me to get you on my team, I'm going to have to buy your companies. Is that what you're telling me? He goes, yes, please. I'm not sure we're going to do that. But my point being, okay, I had this great conversation. I added value in his life. And honestly, in just talking to him, he added value in mine. Did it move the company goals along? No, probably not. But most of the conversations we have are aligned with the user intent, their experience, and our company goals. And in the middle, everybody wins.
Mhm. Is there also an aspect to this idea of Maslow's hierarchy and speaking to where people are at and where they aspire to be?
Yeah. So Maslow has a hierarchy of needs. And I think most people are familiar with it, but if you're not, Maslow, Maslow, and it's his hierarchy, he's got a pyramid, and it shows at the bottom of the pyramid is our survival needs like food, air, water, sleep, procreation. All right. Those are our base level animal needs. And as you move up through the pyramid to the very top is self-actualization. But Maslow doesn't say, interestingly enough, that you have to solve one of your needs completely before you can move to the next. For example, when we're hungry,
Mhm.
we eat not necessarily till we're full, but we're at least satisfied. But we might be more thirsty at a point than we are hungry. So we stop eating and we drink some water. And we might be really tired. So even though we're a little hungry and maybe a little thirsty, we lay down and sleep. All of those needs will pop up, some more urgently than others. And at some point, we satisfy those needs to some level. And when we satisfy all those needs to some level, we can move on to next. Now, unfortunately, in the world today, not everybody is satisfying those base level needs, which is really, it's crazy. Give 2023, there are still people who have food shortages, sleep deprivation, and health issues. And we can talk about that in a minute. But if you think about at the top of the pyramid, self-actualization, where people give to charity, why do they give to charity? They give to charity because they're selfish. You, you're probably like, how do you give to charity if you're selfish? People give to charity because it assuages some guilt. It makes them feel good. It maybe releases endorphins. We give to charity because of how it makes us feel. And we're either trying to avoid guilt or we're trying to feel like we've achieved something, but we're doing it for selfish reasons. Now, nobody likes to hear that, but it is the reality. For example, when you mention the different boards that I'm also on the board of directors for something called Vincent House and have been for over a year now. And Vincent House is a charity that works with individuals who are suffering from mental illness and helps them integrate back into society to develop friendship and job skills and so on. And so we've got multiple locations in the state of Florida here, and I give to that. Is it because I'm a nice person? I'd like to think I'm a nice person, but the truth of the matter is I do this because it makes me feel good. I've achieved enough. It makes me feel good to be able to give back. And I know why I do it. And so do all the other board members, although they might not know why they do it. I know why they do it. But the point being, we give to charity and we do these things because of how it makes us feel, right? Mother Teresa is the best example. Why did Mother Teresa do this? She felt guilty about her upbringing and what she had. And look at what she did, giving to the world, right? It's an example of that. It's an extreme example, but it is an example.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
anyway,
I certainly get this idea of developing empathy, understanding the visitor. How do we begin to take this level of understanding and put it in a context on our website that resonates with the kinds of people that we want to have as customers? Is there a broad framework that you use? If so, can you talk us through it?
sure. The first part is understanding who your target
Mhm.
audience is. And we're not going to talk about personas per se, but we are going to talk about something we use, which is called the core model, which basically says, why are people coming to this website? And when they land on this page, how did they get here? What was the upstream messaging? And what problem are they trying to solve? And to solve that problem, what information do they need to be able to move forward to the next stage? And the next stage could be as simple as buying something, filling out a form, or going deeper into the website to learn more about a specific area of your product or your service. All right. So the core model says, all right, who's coming here? Why are they coming here? What information do they need to take action? What actions can they take at this stage with the amount of information they have? And where do they go from here? And you do that page by page within your website. And when you do that correctly, that is absolutely aligning that user intent with what they experience on your website. And I would say, obviously, your company goals,
Mhm.
because you're not going to create something that bears no relationship to what it is you're trying to accomplish. At least I would hope you're not.
Mhm.
And so that's the process. It takes a little bit of work to get there, but it's time very well spent.
Just as simple as answering questions that people might have, or does there need to be a bit more to it and capture, I guess, the essence of the story, if I can use that word, as to how potential customer is grappling with the issue, the problem they have, and of course, being addressing where they're at now, which is trying to find a solution.
Sure. So if I were to simplify
Mhm.
this, then the way I would simplify it is every website visitor asks themselves three questions when they land on a page. Am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? And what am I supposed to do here? And the am I in the right place question is dependent upon the upstream messaging. So if the upstream messaging says whatever HR software to manage overtime, when they land on the page, it needs to say HR software to manage overtime, not the number one HR software across three continents. That's a
Mhm.
mismatch. All right. You don't want people to have to think, is that the right software? Am I in the right place? So don't make people think. Answer the question directly. Am I in the right place? How do I feel about it? This is a little harder. This is about trust. So how do you generate trust? I will tell you, and this is a throwaway that I'll tell everybody, phone number on a website in the top right-hand corner on the desktop and as a click to call icon on mobile is the number one trust symbol on the face of the planet. Companies that have their phone number up there get not only an increase in calls, which you may or may not want, but it increases the conversions. We've tested it, and I can't tell you how many countries, and it has never failed. Okay. All right. But trust is everything from Google reviews to testimonials to trust statements. For example, if we went back to, let's say, that HR example, join over 10,000 clients worldwide who trust XYZ company for all of their HR software needs. all right, am I in the right place? And how do I feel about it? I know it's an HR software company. They've got 10,000 customers in 3 continents or wherever they are. Oh my God, these are the guys. Thank God I found them,
Mhm.
right? Because that's a trust statement. And then the third thing is, what am I supposed to do here? And this is where it gets a little trickier. Most companies want to do what we call bottom of the funnel marketing, or greedy marketer syndrome. It's buy now, fill out this form, subscribe. No, no, you haven't earned the right yet to do that. I'm sorry, I'm not saying I've been single a long time, but I remember when I was single, you didn't go into a bar, go up to someone and say, "Hi, you live around here? What's your phone number? You ready to leave?" You just didn't do that. Okay. Because it's rude. Okay.
Mm.
And it's creepy too. So we tell our clients, don't be creepy on your website. Don't be creepy in person either, but don't be creepy on your website. Let people guide through, date before you get married, give them a couple choices. And then back to your point, Vinay, you were talking about telling stories. The story I have to tell a manager versus the story I have to tell a practitioner versus the story I have to tell maybe the purchasing agent or whoever the person is could be different. So on the website, if you've got different types of people coming, make sure that you have entry points for each of them, even if it's off the homepage that says looking to manage a project, looking to implement a product, looking to procure with what, and again, I'm making it up on the fly here, but when I get there, not only am I in the right place, and I feel good about it, but I know what to do because guess what? They're talking to me.
Mhm.
I'm the manager. I'm the procurement guy. Whatever I am, I'm like, oh my God, they're talking to me. And I'm excited.
Mhm.
And that's how that works. Answer those 3 questions. Now, the core model, don't get me wrong. We love that. We do
Mhm.
that. But that takes a little time and effort to learn that and figure that out and do that. If the people listening just said, does my website on every single page answer the questions? Am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? What am I supposed to do here? They're way ahead of the
Mhm.
game. So,
That sounds like sound advice. I'm curious though, with this idea of creating trust, you certainly talked about a fair few things that I would say most websites, especially in the SaaS space, would have. What would you say though to folk who have become a little bit immune, if I could put it that way, to these trust symbols and testimonials and things? In fact, speaking to a few people, I was asking them more specifically about case studies, and they said they might look for it, but they don't trust it. And I thought that was an interesting
mhm.
response because they tend to be very much based around the perspective of a company as opposed to a customer's true narrative. Is there something different to the way we should approach this idea of building trust in a way that seems genuine as opposed to made up?
The first thing is make it genuine. Okay. That's on
Yeah,
the head there. Come on. There's multiple types of trust. So, for example, the phone number, which we talked about, is a trust symbol. Real companies have their
fair
phone
enough.
number front and
Yeah.
center. So I don't have to worry that if I go to a website and these are a couple people in a cave somewhere trying to steal my information. All
Mm.
right. Real companies have phone numbers. And then there's different elements, types of trust, case studies, trust statements. For example, we've done a whole bunch of business in Australia. And I would tell you on some of our Australian clients, you will see things like Australian family business,
Yeah.
1 million plus clients, customers,
Yep.
right? Serving Australia since 2010, right? Whatever it is, those are all trust statements. And it's not like you go in and you're going to see one thing and go, oh my God, they're trustworthy. It's every little bit adds a little bit more trust, and you have to vary the trust. You can't use the same trust over and over again. So when they go down the page, you might start with Google ratings. Further down on the page, you might have a trust statement that says join over 10,000 clients or serving Greater Australia or joining Australia since 2010. That is a trust statement. We might get down further and there might be testimonials. We might get further down and there might be a case study. We might get further down and there's pictures of clients using the product or the service. You vary the trust because everybody processes information slightly differently. Some people need a video of a client talking. Everybody's different. So by varying the trust and not just doing the same thing over and over again, it makes the site trustworthy.
vary the messaging that you're sharing specific to the user who would be landing on a particular page is key. And certainly speaking to issues that are top of mind for them in order to mitigate the risk that they perceive would be key elements to the process. Would that be fair?
Oh, absolutely right. So, for example, if let's say you're working with executives and practitioners. On the executive, the trust might be another executive talking about how they've increased efficiency and they've done their bottom line was improved or whatever the words are going to be. But on the practitioner, they're going to talk about how easy it was to implement and how it was stress free and how it didn't cause problems with any of the other systems or
Mhm.
whatever it is that they're selling, right? What one person perceives as trust, another person is going to perceive as nonsense. All right. Because if I'm a practitioner and I'm hearing about bottom line, I'm like, yeah, that's nice, but right,
Mhm.
we want to make sure that the trust is not only aimed at the audience, the correct audience member, but is also relevant to the page it's on. So if you're at a high level page talking about strategy,
Mhm.
you're not going to have implementation trust. If you are if it's a consumer site, all right, dealing with products for women, you're not going to have men. Oh, here's an example. I'll give you an example. I can't tell you the name of the company because this is just embarrassing for them. But this company sold dresses and women's clothes to plus size models, so bigger women. And all of the women in their photo shoots were these skinny little people. And we said, I'm sorry, why are your models all these people? They said, we wanted it to be aspirational for these bigger women. And my answer to that is, well, that has to be the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard. Okay. Why don't we pick the plus size models because that's your audience and show off the clothing that enhances them and makes them shine as how beautiful they actually are. Okay. Why would you insult these people with these people that look like they're malnourished? That's insane. And this was like, this company was hundreds of millions of dollars a
Wow.
year in revenue. It was insane. Yeah.
That's an interesting take. I'm curious though, storytelling. There's a lot being said about it often. How would you recommend we utilize it in content on various pages?
So there's different types of content for different types of pages. Okay. So let's go with the About Us page, which is the most self centered page on any website. I think we can agree to that. That's where they brag. But here's the thing, instead of bragging, tell the story. It's like the origin story for the hero, the myth, where this is what the person struggled with, and this is what they overcame, and this is why they're doing this for you, our visitor. And so by creating that story and that origin myth, that is something that people can relate to. Or if they talk about what they do and they give it back to charity or whatever they do. Having said all of that, okay, even though when you read the words, it still might sound self centered. If you bold certain words, let's say we had a website and said, welcome to XYZ company, all right, creating women's fashion for over dozens of years, right? And we're proud to do this and we're proud to do that. But what if in that paragraph it said, your safe place was bolded, okay? Look your best was bolded, feel fabulous was bolded. So the
Mhm.
words might still be a little self centered, but the bolded words that are going to pop off the page are all about the visitor. So you can tell your origin story and still pop things because people will read it, but they will focus in on the words that are about them because they want to feel fabulous. They want to be in a safe place. They want to, whatever it is. And so there's ways to turn your content into something that we call content for conversion. It's all about making people feel good about the content, absorbing it, maybe not reading it all, but absorbing it in a way that solves whatever they're trying to do and aligns with your goals. And if you do that, you then have earned the right. It pretty sounds even on a blog page. If you do it right, you've earned the right to get them to take the next step. On our website, we've got some blog pages that convert unbelievably well with people. They read the blog and then they sign up for an appointment to talk to one of them because content had a story, told them what they needed to learn, and convinced them that I should probably talk to these people.
That would certainly make sense. I would think for certain topics, you can see a direct conversion to either an appointment being booked or something like that nature. What about the rest of it? I'd say probably 80% of content doesn't necessarily drive a direct conversion, but could potentially be used to build and nurture a relationship to get them to that point when they're ready to make that appointment in this particular case. How would you frame the key metrics for that type of content? Because if we can't see a direct conversion, should we just should we A, be producing content, and two, is there perhaps a different metric to associate with those types of content?
Yeah. So the metric has changed with the switch from Universal Analytics to GA4. The metrics used to be bounce rate, and the metric is now engagement
Mhm.
rate. All right. And so it's swapped, but they're similar. They're basically the opposite side of the same
Mhm.
coin, so to speak. And you also want to make sure that you've got people engaged. And how do you make sure that people are engaged? One of the things that we do is we look to see how much of the content do they actually consume. So we create events on pages to know that they've consumed 10%, 20%, 50%. And you can use heat maps for this, but you can also use triggers so that you can analyze what's going on. And we've done both. All right. If you have content that is engaging, a larger percentage of people will read through it and spend the time on it. And if you're using heat maps, the heat maps will tell you how far down they're getting, what they're consuming, what they're clicking on. If you're doing recordings for them, you can actually see what they're doing. If they scroll to the very bottom of the page and leave, what you said to them wasn't engaging.
Mhm.
If they scroll up and down and up and down and up and down on the page, you've caught their attention, but they still didn't find what they were looking for. So you want to see where they go next to find what they're looking for, if possible.
Mhm.
And if they scroll down partway on the page and they click whatever your call to action is and go to the next page, then you had stuff that was very compelling to move them along. So there's tricks in viewing anything from your analytics to your heat maps to see how engaged people are.
Mhm.
And the key here is engagement. Again, it used to be bounce rate, but that's really still engagement. You want to lower that. And there is a direct correlation between engagement and conversion rate. The more engaged somebody is, the more likely they are to convert. Now, if you're on a blog page, what is the conversion? What should it be? It should be another step. It shouldn't be a big ask. Buy this $100,000 car. That's probably not appropriate. But so you want to make sure that the conversion action that you're asking for is at the proper stage based on the type of content. But that kind of storytelling is true on any kind of page, even if it's, let's say it's a category page on an e-commerce site. How are you doing storytelling? What if the top banner said cure, and let's say we're selling kitchenware. I'll make it up. It doesn't matter. You're selling cars, kitchenware, books. I don't care what it is. But what if the title said curated kitchenware, curated books designed for blah, 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 because you know your audience, right? You're telling a story just in those words. What you're saying is, I care about you, and I went and picked these specifically for you. And then on the category page, instead of just having the picture of whatever it is and some words, all right, what if it said designed for blah, 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 or best suited for people who are doing this, that, and that? Oh my God, you're talking to me. I'm in the right place. They're talking to me. They're telling me exactly what I need to know to be able to move on. That's all part of storytelling.
Brilliant.
I'm going to look on your face and I can tell you like that. We've said a lot that you liked.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think being able to tell a story that resonates and sure it lands is key. And I love the way that you talk about ensuring that it lands in terms of the next step that people take. So that makes a lot of sense. Um, Obviously, all of what you're talking about is about building relationships in the digital space. You've written a book about it, but I'm curious. Well, we've touched on a fair bit, but are there perhaps a couple of areas that we haven't touched but should, or perhaps a couple of aspects that don't get much airtime but should? If so, what would they be?
For conversion rate optimization perspectives, okay, and I can't tell you how many times we have this discussion, but everything you do should be measured and tracked. Because if you measure and track it, you can improve it. But if you're not measuring it, how do you know whether or not you're making a difference? And I can't tell you how many times we've had clients come to us and they say, our revenue is up, our revenue is down, our revenue. Okay, well, that's great. But let's look at the numbers underneath the covers here. And then and these are brand new clients, they come to us and then we look and they're not capturing anything in their analytics at all, almost. How are we supposed to know what's working and what's not working under here? So the first thing you have to do is you have to create a base of information that you can build from. I tell everybody, analytics is not a one and done. And what most people do is they set it up and then they don't change it over a year, 2 years. It's completely out of date. The goals aren't working. The e-commerce nothing's working. It's not tracking. All right. And if you're not managing by the numbers, how do you know if this was better than that? And and everyone wants to test. That's the other thing. They want to test. Why are you testing if your underlying analytics aren't set? Can we fix that first, please? And then based on that, we can actually go after the obvious areas that need improvement because the analytics will point to you and tell you, here's where you're having a problem. All right. And then you can test. And I remember one client once came to us. Their revenue was increasing year over year. And when we looked at behind the scenes what was going on, their traffic had been increasing, but their conversion rate had been going down month over month. So the revenue was hiding a problem. And when they couldn't generate more traffic, suddenly they realized they had a problem. Guess what? You've had a problem. And I looked at the numbers. This is pre GA4. This is universal analysis. So we had years of data. Their conversion rate were going down steadily for 5 years. And they didn't know. Seriously? They never looked. All right. But if they had done that, they would have made even more money than they did. All right. Instead of waiting till it suddenly became a problem. So my advice to everybody is make sure your analytics are in order and then figure out what your KPIs are, what they should be, and then start building towards whatever the goals are. And that is one of the first things we do with every single new client.
It makes a lot of sense and some advice. Just as you were talking about this, and I remember you alluding to dating.
Sorry.
Earlier on in our conversation, I thought, should we, as we look at these pages, and perhaps our website overall, should we almost be looking at posing this dating experience over our website in that for the right type of clients, we should ensure that the content resonates with them in the first few seconds, because that's the initial time span. So much so that they're willing to spend a bit more time. Maybe it's the first 5 minutes. And if they go further into the content that we have on our website and the information that we are unpacking, it could potentially lead to them subscribing or extending that period of time to about, 10 minutes or so, through to being willing to go out on a first date, so to speak, which would be a sign up to maybe a newsletter or a trial or something like that nature. Is that a good way of breaking it down a little bit and looking at the overall experience?
Yeah. And so I'm going to go a step further.
Okay.
It's not just dating, it's marriage.
True.
So here's the thing. You can be charming when you meet somebody. You can be charming on the first date. But after a while, if it's not who you really are, then you break up. Or You get married because you were charming through all of that. But then the stresses of life get there and you stop paying attention to your spouse and you don't do things around the house and you don't help each other. You don't support each other. That's where divorce comes in, right? Each one of those things that happens all the way through when we first meet someone to whether we're married, however long. And each one of those is a touch point and every touch point matters.
Mm.
If you think about this, you're smiling again. I can tell. So if you think about this, every touch point matters, whether it's on the website, whether it's the promotional email they got, the transactional email, the unboxing experience if they got a product, the follow-up emails, the customer service, what happens when they call on the phone. All of this stuff matters for a lifelong relationship. And if you've got something where you can increase the customer lifetime value, then you really want to be married to these people for as long as you possibly can. And even if it's a one and done, you never know who they're going to talk to because they may recommend you to somebody else. And so while you can't track that as easily, all right, making sure every touch point matters. Vinay, are you married, buddy?
I
He
am,
knows.
yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm married 35, going on 36 years now, right? I promise you that if I didn't also put dishes in the dishwasher when I noticed and I make the bed, right? And I may not make the bed every single day, but I'm pretty good at it. And I do the dishes most of the time, except maybe I'm running because I got a meeting coming up or something. And my wife understands, but I do things, right? Because we're in a relationship and it's a partnership. And every one of those is a touch point, and little acts of service like that are little acts of love. And so we have another client, they joke about this. I always say, give your clients a lot of love. And this client, whenever they're writing a page or building a page, they always say, is there enough Marty love on this page? Because if not enough Marty love, they won't allow the page to go live. So that analogy that you're talking about, dating to marriage and all those touch points, absolutely matters. I believe that in my heart and soul.
I know we've covered a fair bit of ground, but is there something I should have asked you or talked about that, but I haven't this yet?
From a conversion standpoint, I think we've covered a lot of the key things here, but I'm just going to reiterate a couple points that I think if they didn't take anything else away, when you're looking back at your website, remember, it's not about you. It's about your visitor. If you solve your visitor's problem, they will subscribe, buy, or whatever. Make sure you're always answering the 3 questions. Am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? And what am I supposed to do here? And make sure you're answering it on every single page when they move from page to page. Just don't do a landing page of the website or the homepage. Make sure you do every page, right? And if you do those things, and if you focus on your visitor, then that is conversion rate optimization. And that's where your success comes.
Brilliant. For listeners who are curious, would like to know more or connect with you or get a copy of your book, where would you recommend they head?
Couple things. I'm a big believer in LinkedIn. So anybody who would like to connect to me on LinkedIn, just let me know that you are a subscriber to Predictable B2B Success. All right. And I will connect with you. And if you're not a subscriber yet, you got to promise me in the connection request that you will be a subscriber. All right. Come on, fair's fair here. All right. And so tell me in the connection request, and that would be great. The book, True Connections, Relationship Marketing in the Digital World, is available on Amazon. And if somebody wants to have a conversation with us about their website and their touch points and providing love to their visitors and creating that conversion mindset, they can make an appointment directly on our website, which is sitetuners.com. And we'd be honored to talk to them.
We'll include links to that in the show notes. Marty, thank you so much for doing this. It's been terrific.
My pleasure. And I enjoyed our time together and I enjoyed the time we had before. So if I can ever be of service, you'll let me